Hey, I'm Dr. Pilet, and I'm going to be hopefully explaining to you this notion of love relationships. You know, I get a lot of men that come to my clinic, a lot of women, and they all say to me the same thing: Doc, I'm in love. You know, she broke my heart, he broke my heart. Well, part of my issue with that is they just had a poor understanding of this thing called love. And by correcting that understanding, I was able to work with people to get their selves back, get their lives back. So understand, let me give you my definition of love. We're going to start off with that, and as we're going to build into the different characteristics of love relationships, let me start off with this, if you will. Love is a process, not a destination. And what I mean by that is it's not something that's always end and finished and it's over. It's just like a person that goes on a weight loss diet. During the process of reducing their calories, they lose weight, but they don't stay there. They don't stay at that ideal weight unless they work it. It's a process. They're always working on cutting the calories, and once they get there, they got to be aware of what it takes to maintain that weight. So, love is a process, not a destination. It's not a passive act of submission, but rather an assertive dedication to collaboratively build a positive, lasting relationship with a willing partner. God, a lot of words I know, but I have to give it to you. The idea that it's not a passive act of submission. When people say, oh, I fell in love. And how did that happen? Well, you know, he came out of nowhere. He gave me roses. He gave me flowers. He brought me to dinner. He was just such a person that I would never imagine I would fall in love with. But you know what? They convinced me. Well, I believe that this notion of an emotional bond, of a connection, this thing called love, should be mutual. And although I understand there are times that we fell in love, please don't underestimate your willingness to accept that person into your life, okay? Not a passive act of submission, but a dedication. I dedicate myself to a collaboratively build. Collaborative, co-labor, that word is to work together. We work together. You do yours, I do mine, and together we build. The idea of dedicated collaboratively. Now, building a positive, lasting relationship is in many ways like going on a vacation. You set your sight on a destination, you pack, you prepare, you come up with some agenda of what you're going to do, but it takes work. By just the venture of starting day one on a vacation by itself, it's just not going to guarantee a harmonious, happy experience. It's going to take some diligence. You've got to be involved. You've got to be 100% committed. You got to be dedicated to build this collaboratively. But understand, a lasting relationship has to be with a partner that's willing to be in a lasting relationship with you. Keeping in mind, a lot of my clients are telling me the things they do, they're trying to win their partner back, and their partner's decided it's over. See, they're not a willing partner. So when I say to you, I'm in love, I'm also saying to you that it's mutual, it's collaborative, that the other person is also there, you know, tit for tat, being in love with me. But when you walk into my office as a person that's in a broken relationship, I think it's more appropriate if you recognize, well, I'm emotionally bonded. You know, I bonded to this person. And sometimes when we think about that type of bond, that type of I can't stop thinking about them, I can't sleep, I can't eat, you know, this verges on addiction more than it does on love. So you got to be careful of how you use those terms, okay? So as I ask you to think about this notion of love, I want you to please, I want to emphasize that idea of commitment. Love relationships require commitment. Two people committed to maintain a lasting, collaborative, positive relationship. Understand that. See? So I'm going to be talking about commitment. And let me go through some of the first things that I think that you should understand about a love relationship and commitment. Number one, it's got to be mutual. I and you both mutually agree that this partnership, this idea, that this emotional bond is something that we both want. I mean, no different than starting a company or a small business. A few years ago, I had a coffee shop and I had a partner. And that partner and I both shared mutually, and not just the maintenance and putting together this coffee shop with tables and chairs and a cash register and employees, but we also mutually were there to share in the profits, the maintenance, the losses. So it's got to be mutual. We're both involved equally, mutually, okay? The next, it's got to be collaborative. You know, it's common sense that if it's mutual, that we should be co-laboring together. In a dysfunctional relationship, it starts off with this idea of being mutual, but then as one partner begins to do more and more and the other partner does less and less, the whole collaborative nature of it begins to fall apart. So understand, in relationships, when we got, you know, children, careers, and chores, those are the 3 C's, children, careers, and chores, singularity and combination are always pulling us apart. Sometimes, as a collaborative partner will do, I will do more than my share because it's a mutual relationship, but at this point in time, I'm available and you're not. And that's just one of the facts about, you know, being in a lasting, committed relationship. Number 3, it's got to be validating. You know, validation is one of the things that I just thrive on. You know, it gives me goosebumps when somebody tells me, hey, Doc, you did a good job. And I've come to realize that when I tell a client, hey, I saw where you started, I see where you are, I can't even begin to tell you how impressed I am. See, that validation, it's a positive energy, it's a positive input into that person's desire to do better. And when we validate somebody, when we validate ourselves for a good job, we find that internal energy. You know, your brain, it's an electrical device. Positive energy, negative energy. And so when you validate yourself or receive validation from others, that neurological network of yours tends to light up. It lights up because it feels good. And those neurotransmitters, serotonin, epinephrine, etc., they flow. And when they flow, you do better. Optimism is not a guarantee for success, but pessimism is a guarantee for failure. Validation, optimism, feeling good about yourself. 4th quality of, if you will, commitment. It's got to be positive. Positive commitment. I see so many people, they go into this idea of marriage and they commit themselves to form a partnership, and that partnership is about raising children and making an income, etc. Unfortunately, I've had a number of cases where the person is forced to marry their partner because their partner just won't be happy otherwise. You see this a lot. It's a dysfunctional bond. Sometimes we call that codependence. I'm doing more for you because I love you than what I would do for myself if I was alone. The idea that I've had many people married for the wrong reasons. They married because it would benefit me in a way that's positive because you have money, position, status. But when we look at positive commitment, what I'm looking for is that we both are better people. 1 + 1 in terms of relationships, when it's a positive relationship, is not 2. It's 2 plus a little bit more. That is, the way that you affect me, the way that you affect my creativity, the way that you affect my enthusiasm for life, the way that you affect my stamina are so positive that with you in my life, I'm a much better person. And so this idea of positive, that we both work together and it gives us something better than what we can be individually. And then finally, tenacious. No relationship lasts because it's all good. There are things that will happen to you that are, you know, you never would have imagined. You know, a few years ago when my wife, Carrie, was pregnant with would have been our 2nd child, a boy, went in for a simple medical checkup. And at the beginning of the day, I was so delighted because 6 months pregnant, we've got a son coming. By the end of the day, she's in intensive care and not expected to live. Holy God, tenacious. I got to hold on. What's going on here? I've got to pull this relationship together. I've got to work. I've got to pray. And I was there. So the word tenacious is, you know, that there's ups and downs, but we don't give up. We don't give up. We hold on to it. It's not just about making more money and buying a house, because people think that, you know, well, it's really easy to be tenacious, to hold on, to be tenuous. See, that's what the word comes from. The tendons in my legs, they pull my muscles to my joints and I'm able to move. Tenacious, hanging on. And a lot of people realize, well, it's real easy to hang on when you've got a lot of prosperity. But that's not just the meaning of tenacious. Tenacious means that when the shit happens, when the tough times occur, you're not going anywhere. You're committed. It's going to happen. Now, I want to talk about those are the good types of commitment. I like to see those, and if you will, mutual, collaborative, validating, positive, and tenacious. I want to talk about the 6 types of distorted commitment, if you will, the distorted types of commitment. And if you will, I've mentioned this word before, but number 1 is codependent. Codependent commitment. There were many books written on codependency. Codependent No More is a very popular book. It's been out for almost 20 years. The idea that I get so involved in the life of another person that I lose myself. I'm a codependent person. I like to remind people, it's sort of a metaphor, but if you will, when a codependent looks in the mirror, they don't see themselves. They see all the people that depend on them. You know, we look at times in our past where there was a division of labor in the household where the husband went to work and he brought home money. Meanwhile, the wife stayed home, took care of the kids, prepared dinner, did laundry. Those days are gone. But my mom was a part of that generation, and I would tell you that without having responsibilities and duties to perform to my dad or to us, she was a lost soul. The whole idea of investing in herself for an education, investing in herself for a career, back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, that was not really encouraged. Well, today, we're in a whole different world. The idea that both of us are working, that there is no time for me catering for you or you catering. It's a mutual, it's agreed upon. I still get a fair number of clients in the door that are lost souls. They're so focused on the person that's the target of their emotions that they don't know what's going on with their own lives. And when I ask them, how you doing? Oh, not good. What do you mean not good? Oh my God, she won't talk to me and I can't see the kids. And I'm like, well, wait a second now. Don't get me wrong. There is a difference between heartfelt ache because I miss someone, but 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years later, when I'm not getting involved in other people because it's not time, because I'm not ready. Now, truthfully, that may be, but a lot of times men don't realize they're so caught up in that other person, almost like they've put them on a relational plane that I can't live without you. That's not good stuff. Now, it doesn't have to be bad. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of codependent relationships out there. Division of labor. She's happy. I'm happy. You're happy. There's as many codependent men out there as women, where I put you at such a high place in my life that I devote myself to you. The next one I want to talk about, number 2, moral commitment. I think the easiest way to explain that is because there's a lot of folks out there that have very strong religious beliefs, Catholics, Methodists, Baptists. I know when I was a kid, I was raised Catholic. And at that time, and again, we're talking 50 years ago, 60 years ago maybe, but the idea that when a person got married, they did so with a priest, and they took an oath in front of a congregation, and you wore a ring that was symbolic of marriage, and you stayed married. And I can honestly tell you, at that point in my life, when I was younger in the Catholic religion, you were taught that if a marriage broke up, that was a grave mortal sin, and because of that, you really couldn't come to our church anymore. And I will tell you, I belonged to a church at the time where when a couple broke up, they couldn't go back to that one because the minister would not allow them. They had broken a vow, an oath, and as far as that minister was concerned, they were not ethical, they were not moral, they shouldn't be members of this church. Well, we have lots of folks today that aren't legally married, but they live together, and they've lived together and have children together. And the idea that I'm emotionally bonded to you, as well as if I had been legally married with a ring, is still alive and well. And so the idea that when a person has a moral obligation, where I believe that my word was given and that my word is so absolute that I will not break that word, that's moral commitment. And if you will, it's not common these days, but I do have experiences with people that live apart. They have no intention of getting back together, but their membership with their different religious beliefs is such that it's against my moral judgment, and I'm not getting a divorce. Okay. The next type of relationship is the pedestal or addictive relationship. Different commitment here. And for years, Alcoholics Anonymous used to say that to every alcoholic there's a codependent partner. And what they were saying is to every person that's got a drinking or drug problem, there's an enabler out there, somebody providing them the resources. Somebody's paying the rent, somebody's paying for the car, somebody's got a good job, because as one person is spiraling down, someone's got to be making up for this, okay? Well, when we talk about pedestal relationship, we're talking about, I think of you as such a phenomenal person. I put you at such a high level of standard that I just feel lucky to have you. And if you look at the reverse of that, you might think that, well, the person that's on a pedestal is looking down at the person that's indebted and glorifying their existence. And this relationship is a bizarre type of commitment, but I see it all the time. I see where the woman is married to a person that's got a position status, and I'm not trying to pick on any particular field, but I see a lot of reverence for the medical field, where either she is an MD, a medical doctor from a very well-known medical school, or he, and we have this idea about, oh my God, you know, they're so educated, they're so elite. When you drive around the city of Tampa, you'll see, you know, lawyers that are advertising, but they're not advertising the lawyer, they're advertising the school they graduated from. You know, the idea that I'm above everybody else because look at my accomplishments, look at who I am, I'm up there. And we see that a lot when we have a person that's a CEO or a general manager of a corporation or a large business. We see it all the time when people are successful contractors. I've even seen it with successful musicians, but the person puts them on a pedestal. They put them on a pedestal and they glorify them because they're just so good. The negative side of pedestals, of course, is you can do this so much you don't even realize that you're addicted to that person. Addicted. Now, emotional addiction, not chemical addiction, but I'm a big believer in it. A lot of people would argue there's no such thing. I don't know. My experience has said that I've seen people that were emotionally addicted. They're driving their car, they've broken up with this person. All they can do is think about them. What am I going to do? Where am I going? And they drive from point A to point B, and they're surprised at how fast the trip was because that's all they thought about. They go to bed at night, they lay in bed, what do they think about? Her, him, how do I get him back? How can I live without him? Again, pedestal addicted relationship. Another reason people stay together in a time of commitment is for the kids. You know, it was more common 25 years ago than it is today, but a lot of people that I've worked with, a lot of couples that I've worked with, they stay together because they think in their mind that it's better for the kids if they see us together, harmonious, happy, and therefore it doesn't affect them, their psychological development. Now it's true, I've seen numbers of cases where as the couples broke up, it did affect the children who didn't do as good in school, didn't sleep well, they lost their source of energy, we call that depression. You know, and it's not uncommon for the boys to favor the father and the girls to favor the mother, and as they break up, you know, it affects different children in different ways. And for whatever it's worth, when people stay married for the kids, I think they're minimizing the psychological turmoil that it puts a child through because they can tell that mom and dad really aren't in a love relationship. And for me, the real danger is that those kids go off later in life and they replicate what they lived at home. And they find themselves entering into highly dysfunctional relationships because they really didn't know what an emotional bond, an emotionally bonded, loving relationship looked like. For the kids, it's a very dangerous thing. Number 5 is phase of life. You know, we all get older. I've heard the story of recently where a woman was telling me her biorhythms, her body clock, you know, was an alarm. You got to have a child. You're going to be 30 years old. You'll be too old. The idea that, oh my God, you know, I've gone to college. I got a job. I got a house. I got a car. But my God, I don't know what kind of a family. And you know, I'm sure you've experienced yourself where all of a sudden, you know, a friend of yours is all of a sudden getting married. You know, I met someone. They tell you about the person they met and they tell you how good it was, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call, we got married, we're getting married. You got to rule out that idea of phase of life because some people really believe that they have almost a calendar of events that they have to work on, that if they're not married by 25 or 30, and you know, we can go ahead and move on later in life because there's some people that were married, had their kids, now they're single and they're trying to enjoy life again. And as they're in their 40s and 50s, they're deciding, wait a second, I don't want to live alone. I don't want to have any more children, but I don't want to do this singular, you know, live by myself, travel by myself. And so the phase of life, it really is a roller coaster. It's up and it's down, and it affects you differently. I can't tell you what age it would affect you, but just be aware that if it does, look it up, read about it, or at least be aware of the world around you. I mean, I've had men in my office tell me about their own parents that broke up because enough of living a lie, the kids are gone, and I just want to, be myself. And then 6 months or a year later, he says he can't believe this. My mom wanted nothing to do with my dad. My dad wanted to do with my mom. They both swore they wanted to be single, and now it's a year later, and they're both engaged. The very thing they told me about that they convinced me of, and now I'm no longer convinced. What's that about, Doc? Phase of life. And then finally, commitment of convenience. It's an inconvenient world, isn't it? Driving here, there's traffic. There's always people in line. We have this coronavirus scare going on. You have to be 6 feet apart, and it's very inconvenient to go to Walmart or Kmart or just a grocery store because everything's backed up. Stay away from each other. But the idea that some people just find it easier to live with someone, to share the bills with someone, to have them in my own apartment where we can watch movies and we can enjoy each other. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a marriage of convenience, and please don't misinterpret. But please look around you and see where it happens, where people that they really don't have any sense of I want to have children, and it's not beneficial, if you will, because I'm a Christian, and they're not addicted in any way. But you say, well, why are you guys doing this? And the one I heard recently was, she lives about 100 miles north, and I live here in Tampa, and we're always meeting in the middle, and we're always, it doesn't make sense, Doc. So we both started looking to see if we could co-locate our jobs, which turned out to be very easy. And it turns out that her house was substantially worth more than we really expected. So the idea of now we're together. It's so we don't have to, we're not spending all this money on gasoline, and we're not driving weekends. And she is the right person for me. I am committed to this person. But this commitment of, even though she's way over there and I'm over here, it just feels so good to have somebody in my life and not be alone. Now, the reason I'm going to give you that last word is because I just want to tell you there's a big difference between alone and lonely. You can be alone and not lonely. And I think that's an important place for you to be in life, okay? So as I ask you to look at the distorted types of commitment, I'll list them real quickly. Codependent. I look in the mirror and I don't see me, I see you, okay? Moral commitment. My Christian obligations, my ethical obligations. I don't believe in living together, so we will commit in this family. For the kids, my God, the kids should never be exposed to a broken relationship. It'll hurt them emotionally, so we're going to stay together in a sense for the kids. Phase of life commitment. My biorhythms are running out. It's time to do something about that. If I don't do it now, then I'll never be able to have children. And then finally, commitment of convenience, which is, I'm not really in love, and neither are you, but we get along better, and we're able to enjoy life better. We can travel. Why not, right? Let's just get it over with. Now, those were the types of distorted commitment, and if you will, the quality of commitment. The good ones were mutual, collaborative, validating, positive, and tenacious. Those were all of them that I gave to you. Again, I'm Dr. Pilet. I hope that you benefited.